Friendship builds bridges. I build barricades.
The Fictional Diaries of Wednesday Addams.
The Tape Line Manifesto, Chapter 1, Diagnosis of a Problem. I don't share willingly. Especially not space, air, or decibel levels. Nevermore sees things differently. They assigned me a roommate. I call it a scientific experiment with high probability of side effects. Her name is Enid. She's a rainbow in sneakers. I'm an autopsy in black. Our intersection is a strip of tape on the floor. The concept of forced cohabitation represents one of society's most profound failures in understanding human psychology. The assumption that proximity breeds compatibility defies both logic and empirical evidence. Most successful relationships require careful cultivation, mutual respect, and compatible objectives. Dormitory assignments operate on the principle that geographic convenience supersedes psychological compatibility. Nevermore's housing philosophy apparently subscribes to the theory that opposing personalities will somehow achieve balance through constant exposure. This demonstrates either remarkable optimism or profound ignorance of basic chemistry. Reactive elements don't become stable through proximity. They become explosive. My new living situation resembles a laboratory experiment in which researchers have combined incompatible compounds in a sealed container, then stepped back to observe the results. The ethical implications of such human experimentation would normally require institutional review board approval. Instead, they call it character building and charge tuition for the privilege of psychological torture disguised as education. The assignment letter arrived with cheerful language about roommate compatibility questionnaires and shared living experiences. The questionnaire asked about music preferences, study habits, and cleanliness standards. It failed to inquire about tolerance for perky optimism, resistance to emotional contamination, or capacity for maintaining sanity while exposed to constant cheerfulness. This oversight suggests either deliberate sadism or incompetent administration. Given institutional behavior patterns, both explanations remain plausible. Enid Sinclair represents everything I find objectionable about human nature condensed into one aggressively colorful package. She radiates enthusiasm like a broken nuclear reactor leaks radiation, constantly, involuntarily, and with potentially devastating consequences for nearby organisms.
Oh, where are my manners? My name is Grimwick. And that was just one page of tonight's diary.
Chapter 2, Architecture of the Border. The tape was my idea. A line, sober and incorruptible. No negotiating, no interpreting. Enid called it unfriendly. I call it efficient. She decorated her side with posters, glitter, and colors that look like nausea in pastel. I decorated my side with emptiness. A vacuum intimidates more than wallpaper. The implementation required careful planning. Standard masking tape lacks the psychological impact necessary for effective boundary establishment. Electrical tape provides superior visual contrast against dormitory carpeting, while suggesting potential consequences for territorial violations. The line extends from the window to the door, creating two distinct zones with clearly defined borders. Mathematical precision eliminates ambiguity about territorial boundaries, reducing the likelihood of accidental incursions that might require forceful correction. Enid's immediate response to the boundary revealed her fundamental misunderstanding of personal space concepts. She viewed the line as a challenge to overcome, rather than a warning to respect. This confirmed my initial assessment of her psychological profile: invasive, boundary blind, and resistant to social cues that don't align with her preferred reality. Her side of the room transformed overnight into an explosion of rainbow aesthetics that violated several principles of color theory and all principles of good taste. Pink dominated the palette, supported by purple, yellow, and other hues that seemed designed to induce retinal damage in observers. My side remained pristine: black, white, and silver, creating a study in minimalist efficiency. The contrast was deliberate, serving both practical and psychological purposes. While her chaos bred distraction, my order fostered concentration. While her colors screamed for attention, my absence of decoration commanded respect through restraint. The psychological impact was immediate and measurable. Enid's body language shifted noticeably when approaching the boundary, demonstrating subconscious recognition of territorial markers, even as her conscious mind rejected their legitimacy.
Visitors to our room invariably paused at the threshold, processing the visual dichotomy before choosing which environment to engage. Most gravitated toward Enid's colorful chaos, confirming my theory that humans prefer comfortable mediocrity to challenging excellence. Chapter 3: Dialogue Protocols, Sample Cases. Case 1. Enid. Annoyed. Can't you wear some color sometime? Me. Thoughtful. I wear black. That's the sum of all colors, so I'm actually more generous than you. Case 2. Enid. Friendly. We should be friends. Me. Matter of fact. We already are. Something. Opposites. And opposites repel each other. Physics doesn't lie. Case 3. Enid. The lighting on your side makes me depressed. Me. Smirking. Then it's working. Mission accomplished. Each interaction followed predictable patterns based on her relentless optimism, encountering my systematic pessimism. She approached every conversation as an opportunity for connection. I treated them as exercises in establishing boundaries. Her questions consistently revealed assumptions about normal human behavior that I found both naive and irritating. She expected shared experiences to create shared perspectives, emotional resonance to overcome logical differences, and sustained proximity to generate automatic affection. My responses targeted these assumptions with surgical precision, dismantling her expectations while providing accurate information about my actual personality. The goal wasn't cruelty, but clarity, eliminating confusion about our fundamental incompatibility. Case 4. Enid. Don't you get lonely on your side? Me. Loneliness requires wanting company. I want silence. I'm perfectly fulfilled. Case 5. Enid. We could compromise on the decorating. Me. Compromise is what happens when no one gets what they want. I already have what I want. Case 6. Enid. Your family must miss you. Me. My family understands boundaries. They're not invasive, unlike some people. The consistency of my responses eventually created learning patterns in her behavior. She began approaching conversations with visible hesitation, recognizing that her preferred outcomes rarely materialized through standard social manipulation techniques. This represented progress, though minimal. At least she was beginning to acknowledge that not everyone shared her worldview or responded to her preferred communication methods. Chapter 4. Advantages of a boarder. 1. Sound dampening. Her giggling sounds like squealing tires. With tape, I have an official territory where her noise arrives only as echo. 2. Cleanliness. My side is sterile. Her side is a circus. A clean cut prevents cross-contamination. 3. Psychology. Borders force people to feel their anxiety. Enid flinches every time she crosses the line. I enjoy it. 4. Experimental data. Within 48 hours, she attempted to cross the line 5 times. 5 times documented. 5 times failed. The psychological benefits extended beyond simple territorial protection. The visible boundary created constant awareness of our fundamental differences, preventing the gradual erosion of standards that often occurs in cohabitation situations. Without clear demarcation, her chaos would inevitably encroach on my order through incremental invasions. A hair clip left on my desk, a magazine placed on my shelf, a colorful pen mixed with my writing implements. These small violations would accumulate until my space became indistinguishable from hers. The tape prevented this contamination by creating binary choice scenarios. Every object placement, every movement, every interaction required conscious decision about territorial respect. This forced awareness eliminated the possibility of accidental boundary violations. The data collection aspect proved particularly valuable. Her crossing attempts followed predictable patterns. Testing frequency increased during stress periods, decreased after direct confrontations, and varied based on her social interactions outside the room. Most interesting was her body language during crossing attempts. Approach velocity decreased near the boundary, head position shifted to monitor my reactions, and retreat acceleration increased proportionally to the intensity of my disapproval. These patterns confirmed that boundary establishment wasn't merely symbolic, but created genuine behavioral modifications in the subject under observation. 5. Educational value. The boundary served as a continuous lesson in respect for others' psychological needs, even when those needs contradicted social expectations about roommate relationships. Chapter 5. Weaknesses of the method. Borders are only as strong as those who respect them. Enid respects nothing, except rainbows and nail polish. She attempted to cheer me up with stickers on my typewriter. My look was sufficient. Stickers don't last long when you remove them with razor blades. The sticker incident revealed a fundamental flaw in boundary theory. Passive barriers require active enforcement to maintain effectiveness. Visual demarcation alone couldn't prevent determined violations by individuals who prioritized their emotional needs over others' territorial rights. Her justification for the sticker placement demonstrated typical human rationalization patterns. She claimed the decoration was a gift designed to brighten my workspace and show she cared. Each explanation ignored my clearly expressed preferences, while positioning her violation as benevolent intervention. This pattern, violating stated boundaries while claiming positive intentions, represents a common manipulation technique among individuals who refuse to accept incompatibility. They reframe their invasive behavior as caring behavior, making resistance appear cruel or ungrateful. My response needed to communicate several messages simultaneously. The violation was unacceptable. Future violations would have consequences, and her justifications were irrelevant to the boundary's legitimacy. The razor blade removal served multiple purposes. First, it restored my property to its preferred condition. Second, it demonstrated the lengths I would go to maintain territorial integrity. Third, it provided visual evidence of the damage caused by her caring intervention. The precision of the removal process, each sticker eliminated without damaging the underlying surface, sent an additional message about my capabilities and attention to detail. Someone who could remove decorative stickers with surgical precision could probably handle more significant violations with equal thoroughness. Her reaction to witnessing the removal process provided valuable data about her psychological tolerance for consequences. The combination of fascination and horror in her expressions suggested that she was beginning to understand the seriousness of boundary violation. Chapter 6. The Lesson of Coexistence. They say living together teaches tolerance. I agree. I've learned to develop tolerance for sounds that would otherwise be classified as torture methods. Enid has learned that some people don't want to be tamed. We've both grown. She in volume, me in patience. The educational value of forced cohabitation operates differently than institutional literature suggests. Rather than creating friendship through familiarity, it often reveals fundamental incompatibilities that casual interaction might mask. Living in close proximity eliminates the social performance that characterizes most human relationships. People can maintain artificial personas during brief encounters, but sustained contact reveals authentic personalities beneath the carefully constructed facades. Enid's true nature emerged gradually through accumulated small behaviors, rather than dramatic revelations. Her morning routine involved 37 distinct sounds, each calibrated to maximum annoyance potential. Her study habits included reading aloud, humming, and frequent consultation with friends via electronic devices. Most revealing was her response to my clearly expressed preferences for silence, order, and minimal social interaction. Instead of respecting these needs, she interpreted them as problems requiring her intervention and correction. This pattern revealed her fundamental narcissism disguised as altruism. She couldn't accept that others might have different needs or preferences. Instead, viewing divergence from her worldview as dysfunction requiring treatment. My patience development occurred through necessity rather than choice. The alternative, elimination of the irritation source, wasn't legally viable in the current educational context. Therefore, adaptation became the optimal survival strategy. The process involved systematic desensitization to auditory assault, combined with advanced meditation techniques learned during family torture training sessions. Uncle Fester's lessons in maintaining consciousness during electrical stimulation proved surprisingly applicable to surviving Enid's conversational attempts. This adaptation represented personal growth, though perhaps not the type Nevermore's administrators intended to foster. Chapter 7. Theory of Opposites. Physics says opposites attract.
My theory? Physicists never lived in a room with Enid. Opposites repel each other. And sometimes they explode. Not today. Yet. But soon. The attraction theory assumes that complementary differences create beneficial balance, like positive and negative electrical charges forming stable compounds. This model works for electromagnetic forces, but fails catastrophically when applied to personality dynamics. Human opposites don't achieve balance through proximity. They achieve mutual irritation through constant friction. Every interaction becomes a collision between incompatible worldviews, generating heat without producing useful energy. Enid's relentless optimism doesn't balance my realistic pessimism. It simply creates constant opportunities for conflict. Her emotional expressiveness doesn't complement my analytical detachment. It provides endless examples of psychological dysfunction for my observation files. The explosion theory derives from basic chemistry rather than physics. When reactive elements are confined in close proximity without adequate safety measures, pressure builds until violent release becomes inevitable. The warning signs are already accumulating. Increased frequency of boundary violations, escalating attempts at forced interaction, and growing frustration with my resistance to her improvement efforts. The critical point will arrive when her need to help me exceeds her capacity to tolerate rejection. At that moment, the careful balance maintained through territorial boundaries will collapse, resulting in consequences that neither administrative policies nor student handbooks adequately address. My preparation for this eventuality includes documentation of all provocative incidents, establishment of clear cause and effect timelines, and development of response strategies that minimize collateral damage while maximizing educational impact. The explosion, when it occurs, will serve as a valuable lesson for future roommate assignments about the importance of psychological compatibility in housing decisions. Chapter 8: Advanced Boundary Theory. The tape line has evolved beyond simple territorial demarcation into a complex psychological instrument with multiple applications and implications. Symbolic function. The visible barrier represents abstract concepts of personal autonomy, mutual respect, and individual sovereignty that many humans struggle to comprehend without concrete representation. Behavioral modification. Daily exposure to clear boundaries creates unconscious conditioning that influences decision-making processes even outside the dormitory environment. Stress testing. The boundary serves as a continuous assessment tool for measuring roommates' psychological stability under pressure. Enid's reaction patterns provide valuable data about her stress responses and adaptive capacity. Educational demonstration. Visitors to our room receive immediate instruction in boundary recognition and respect through observation of our territorial arrangements. The line has also revealed interesting information about institutional authority structures. When Enid complained to residential advisors about the unfriendly boundary, their response demonstrated administrative discomfort with clear-cut solutions to social problems. They prefer ambiguous guidelines that allow multiple interpretations, creating dependency on authority figures for conflict resolution. My definitive boundary eliminates this dependency by establishing clear, enforceable rules that require no external interpretation or mediation.
This independence threatens institutional power structures that rely on student conflict to justify administrative intervention and control. Several staff members have visited our room under various pretexts, ostensibly to check on our adjustment, but actually to assess the boundary's impact on dormitory social dynamics. Their discomfort with the arrangement is obvious but unexpressed, revealing institutional preference for managed chaos over independent solutions. Chapter 9. Conclusion. The line of tape is more than a strip of plastic. It's a manifesto, a border, a contract, a quiet war. If anyone ever enters my side without permission, they'll understand. The tape wasn't there for decoration. It was a warning. The boundary represents successful application of engineering principles to social problems. Clear specifications, precise implementation, and consistent enforcement create predictable results even in chaotic environments, populated by unpredictable individuals. The experiment continues to provide valuable data about human behavior under controlled conditions. Enid's responses follow patterns that confirm established psychological theories while revealing new information about personality disorder manifestations in academic settings. More importantly, the boundary has successfully preserved my mental health and academic productivity in circumstances specifically designed to undermine both. While Enid continues her descent into greater levels of colorful chaos, my side of the room maintains the sterile efficiency necessary for serious intellectual work. The tape serves as daily reminder that individual autonomy is possible, even in institutional environments designed to eliminate personal choice. It represents successful resistance to forced social integration without resorting to methods that might trigger administrative intervention. Future refinements to the boundary system might include electronic monitoring devices, automated response mechanisms, or chemical deterrents for persistent violators. But current technology appears adequate for maintaining territorial integrity against present levels of invasion attempts. The quiet war continues. Victory isn't measured in territory gained, but in territory successfully defended. By that metric, the campaign remains successful. The boundary will remain in place until either educational completion or roommate elimination renders it unnecessary. Both outcomes appear equally likely at present. Daily aphorism. Friendship builds bridges. I build barricades. Final entry. Note. Some relationships are improved by distance. Others are improved by walls. The tape is just the beginning. The darkness outside my window tonight seems particularly supportive of boundary maintenance activities. Even nature understands the value of clear divisions between incompatible elements.
Ah. I trust you enjoyed this glimpse into a most curious diary. If so, leave behind a small token of your delight with a like, and do consider joining our circle by subscribing. And remember, ring the little bell, and you shall be the very first to know when another diary or a fresh entry emerges from the shadows. And if a whisper stirs in your mind, a thought, a riddle, perhaps a name of someone whose secrets you would dare to uncover, leave it from me below. I read them one by one. And who knows, your wish may guide my hand to the very next diary I choose from my collection.